We wanted some workshop space in our back garden. This was what we had already, and this is what we got, and all done over winter. This is why and how we came to do it. The effort, the pitfalls, the challenges, and the success. We had the space. Well, once we'd taken down the old shed, and not forgetting my grandfather's oak joiner's bench. A dead laburnum tree also had to cop it, and it was a tough one. And then we could accurately measure the space. Looking through Tuin's online catalogue, we rather fancied the 5x3 metre Aister log cabin. But on measuring the proposed site again, we decided that the 3 metre depth would be restrictive for access around the back. There wouldn't be enough room to paint it, let alone fit the roof. There were also considerations regarding the wood being able to breathe. Fortunately, there was a slightly smaller model, the Justine at 5 by 2.5 metres, which would fit perfectly. That extra half metre, plus a few more inches it could be moved further into the garden, would be just right. The land there has a slope and is rather steeper than it looks. A concrete base wasn't an option for us, and this is why we chose to use garden decking, as the supports could be made to suit. Okay, so you're probably wondering why we would go to the expense of using decking boards only for them to be covered by a cabin. Good point. But then concrete isn't a budget option either. As these would be covered, we bought reject boards at an incredibly low price, and the reason we wanted boards was to provide underfloor protection from rodents, especially as we would be using tasty foam insulation beneath the cabin's own floorboards. When building most garden sheds, you begin with the base or floor and build the walls on top of this. A log cabin is different, as we'll see. At this time, thanks to the Tuin site emphasising the importance of the surface beneath the cabin being absolutely level and square, whether it's flags, concrete, timber or anything else, we held back from completing the framework and decking until we could check for level over such a large area. Professional builders and landscapers will usually build slightly out of level to allow for water to run off, but these log cabins need to be spot on level and no messing. This was the minimum footprint size as specified in the instructions online, and we eventually built it up, resting the thick pieces of treated timber posts on a solid surface. The land there is heavy in sandstone, but I still dug test holes and did spike driving to be certain of its stability. Weed membrane was used to cover the bare earth. So, armed with a couple of spirit levels, we did a final check and adjusting and screwed down the decking boards. Then we had the waste to get rid of, the old shed and that damned rock solid laburnum. Just look at it, a picture of modesty if ever I saw one. We never heard the massive lorry arrive. The driver expertly reversed up our road and used his amazing forklift truck to unload our 5 metre plus pallet, bringing it sideways up the drive and placing it on the grass. Then he moved the lorry down to allow other people access to their driveways. Impressive indeed, and I told him so. It took another couple of days during wet and windy Pennine weather to get to the bottom of the pallet, following the advice to stack the components in order. We kept the roof boards and the double doors in the garage, and the 2 window units we stored in an estate car. The other parts were put close to the building site, making the garden look like a timber yard, which looked quite impressive if you like that sort of thing. And then we laid out the baseboards, which are different from the main wall boards, and these go down first. We had chosen a composite foundation beam This was an optional extra and would go under the baseboards and provide some protection from wet ground. Once these baseboards for the 4 walls were locked together, I used this to measure and cut the foundation beam using an electric shop saw, although that stuff can also be hand sawn, but it's really tough going. You need to be careful because you don't want this. You want this. Odd pieces of waste had been supplied, such as this one, which we used as a mallet block, and the boards went on rather quickly, using a rawhide or plastic headed mallet to tap the joints together. Well, 1 or 2 rows of them went on quickly, and that's when it was all too apparent that they were not going to fit. Clearly something was wrong, and I had a sneaking suspicion just what it could be. I checked one of the 5-metre lengths for absolute straightness so that I could use it with our 4-foot spirit level to make it into a 16-foot spirit level, which we didn't have whilst building the decking, and the decking was out of level. This was why our cabin refused to fit together properly. What had Tuin said? Only a completely 100% level and supporting base can guarantee a perfect assembly. And this is the lesson. Do not use a small spirit level, even a 4-foot one, for a big job, because it's not long enough. There was nothing else for it. We had to remove the decking boards and readjust the frame. To make reassembly easier, my wife got out her Sharpie pen and numbered the boards. Whilst replacing them, we kept checking for square and level. I remember that it behaved itself and stayed true, which was a relief, I can tell you. We screwed down the foundation beam. And also screwed the first row of timber boards to the beam. We checked this online, and it's the only place where fastenings can be used in the construction of the walls, because being wood, which is a natural material, it should be able to move according to the temperature and humidity. Which sounds like a holiday in a hot country, doesn't it? After this, the walls were built quickly and without problems, and I put this down to our base being perfectly level and square, which of course it was. Now, the windows simply slide down the wall sections on either side. They must not be fastened to the walls in any other way. This is to allow the boards to move freely and prevent gaps and splitting. We were frequently rained off and, due to strong winds, delayed fitting the windows until we could be certain to complete the section of wall above the windows that would secure them in place. And there we can see the pre-cut roofing boards stacked against the rear wall. There's one beam waiting to be fitted. These roofing beams were ready notched and simply tapped together. It took the pair of us just 3 days to be ready to fit the roof boards. That's the trusty single piece claw hammer. I fitted the roof boards in the rain, working from inside in a progressively shortening space until I could no longer fit in the gap at the gable ends. It was very satisfying working on this, and the boards slotted perfectly together. And there it is, all ready for the roof covering. Ah, is there a gap? Or is all that light coming in through the windows? Yeah, all the roof boards are on. Some of the timber pieces that are not load bearing are finger jointed. Here is the underlay that we chose to apply directly to the boards. In this rather exposed area, we wanted some extra protection. That's the first row of felt shingles in place. These are heavy and thick. I'd never used them before, but I can say that never again will I use ordinary roofing felt. Shingles are far superior and last much longer. Fitting these took another 3 days, largely because the wind threatened to rip away the underlay. I used those straight pieces of timber you can see to stop the underlay from curling. Each tile is held in place with one felt nail, and although those black patches on the tiles are meant to melt to the tile above during hot weather, I also used weatherproof adhesive. Then we fitted the optional floor with 40mm insulation between the joists, resting on 5mm strips of wood to provide an air gap between the foam and the decking. These strips were cut from the packing pieces included in the shipping pallet, and this is one aspect that I like. Tuin isn't mean with stuff, and there's plenty of packing and extra bits and pieces included. We had to be careful not to walk on that insulation. In a moment we'll see an insulation board being cut with a bread knife. Like with any project, things can look a bit of a mess. And whilst this was going on, we began to paint the exterior. That was 3 coats. Again, we had to wait for suitable dry periods. There was no point painting the wood when it was wet. We had a number of jobs all going on at the same time, painting inside and out, finishing the floor. The quality of the floorboards was almost good enough to be left natural, but we thought we'd better paint them. And ultimately it was completed. There it sits, with the trees gently swaying in the wind. And after 7 years, we still feel that the cabin has been an amazing addition to our home.